Well, good morning. It's great to see everybody here today. My name is Daniel M McRae. I was born July 24, 1824, on a farm not very far from here in what's now called Scotland, Georgia. My parents were Duncan and Flora Macmillan McRae. They were true to their Scottish ancestry. I was raised up a staunch Presbyterian. I was taught the value of hard work at an early age. I worked on my father's farm. My father was also the second clerk of Superior Court for this county. My family were some of the first settlers to this area. When they arrived here, this was nothing but a wilderness and was also partially inhabited by Indians. Yes, I loved growing up here. I worked for my father until the age of 21, and I decided to begin a life of my own. I felt called into the profession of teaching, and I became a teacher at Jacksonville, Georgia. Now, as many of you know, teaching is a very rewarding career, but maybe not so much financially. So I decided to open up a general store in Jacksonville in addition to teaching. This proved to be a very successful move for me. After I established this career, I decided, it's time to settle down and get married. There was a beautiful young lady that caught my eye, Miss Susanna McRae. Yes, you heard correctly, McRae. You see, it wasn't an uncommon practice at that time for a McRae to seek another McRae in marriage. One reason for this is that McRaes were about all that were available. I want to share with you the letter that I wrote to my dear Susanna. One of the history books published this years ago. I believe my granddaughters have the original copy, and I'll introduce them momentarily. But I wrote this letter on April 7th of 1859. Miss Susanna, this letter will by no doubt be read by you with surprise, as I am of the opinion that you're not expecting a letter from me. I have been a long time thinking about writing you on the subject of this letter. I finally concluded to write you and to risk the consequences. If you're not engaged, will you allow me the extreme pleasure of forming a more intimate acquaintance with you? Will you allow me to visit you not only as a friend, but as a lover? I must say, and I say it without any desire to flatter you, I look upon you as the most amiable of all my acquaintances. Now, Miss Susanna, in conclusion, let me beg of you to answer this letter by next week's mail. If you cannot agree to my proposition, please enclose this letter in an envelope and return it to me. Very truly yours, D.M. McRae. Well, I got her. We were married on December 1st of 1859. We weren't married very long when the onset of war started. I enlisted in Colonel Alfred H. Colquitt's battalion. Now, this was a Georgia battalion, but I was stationed in Florida on the Apalachicola River. You may have heard of the siege of Apalachicola. Now, during this time, something very interesting happened. I was informed that I had been elected to the state legislature. I never solicited this position, but basically was given this. I guess my friends deemed me worthy to be in the state legislature. Now, all throughout this time, my dear Susanna and I had 5 children. My son Alfred is the ancestor of my dear great-great-granddaughters that are here today. I'd like to introduce Mary Margaret and Jane McRae. And there have been McRaes here since 1815, over 200 years that they've been in this section. Now, after the war ended, I came back home and I began to purchase land. I purchased all the land on which this city is now situated. Might surprise you who I bought the land from. My wife's family. Her father was Alexander Bain McRae, and he acquired all this land back in 1850. That's how I know how long our people have been here. So naturally, I began farming and other enterprises. Then I got word that something just unbelievable might be happening. That would be the railroad coming through my section. Well, I began to inquire. I began to work to help make this dream become a reality. And sure enough, within a few years, I had the Southern Railway in my backyard. Now, this really changed everything for this area. Jacksonville had been the seat of this county because of the river. But now that we had the railroad, why, everything changed. And what was considered backwoods, this area, and remember it was just primarily woods at that time, started to grow and became a hub. I helped build the first depot here. I was the first depot agent and clerk. I was also the first city clerk. Yes, I was the founder of this town. I have one of my old deeds, stated 1872, before this was named McRae, and I signed it depot clerk. I sold lot 292. Now, that's exactly what happened. I began selling lots to other people. City lots began forming, and this city started to become alive. Now, when we were needing a name for this area, keep in mind we had been called Station 11. That's because we were the 11th stop from this Macon to Brunswick Railway. But Station 11, you know, that doesn't have much of a ring to it. So the name McRae was decided for this town.
Wow.
Now, there's several reasons for this. One, I had the depot, had the land, but I want to tell you, I gave away as much land as I ever sold. You know, I was so blessed for this all to transpire in my backyard that I gave the land for the schools, for the churches, why even this cemetery, I believe. I also gave the land and helped with all the endeavors of the South Georgia College. And I also was very instrumental in forming the first Presbyterian church here in this fine city. You know, what a blessing it was for me. And I'm so thankful that the good Lord put me here in this section. Now, I don't want to brag too much on myself this morning. I want to read an excerpt from a book. You're going to meet a lady on this tour named Florence Mann. She was not a native here to McRae, but she was a true daughter of McRae. She wrote a history of Telfair County. I want to read to you what she wrote about me. In every relation to life, Daniel McRae was a true man, and the many evidences of his foresight, wise planning, are seen here in this city. He was quiet yet brave, true and chivalrous. His life was lived on good purposes. In October of 1898, he was stricken with a heart attack and quietly passed away in the manner he had often expressed to go. I want to thank you for coming out today and hearing about my life and a little bit about this city. Good day.
Thank you.
Since Daniel McRae won't be able to stay with us for the whole rest of the day, if y'all have any questions of him before we move on to our next character, please ask him now and he can rest in peace.
That is an actual deed. This is an original deed that I was telling Mr. Maneely was thrown out from his carriage house years ago, and different ones pillaged in the trash, including me.
Wow.
One thing I noticed, I'd be amiss not to mention Murphy McRae, who was a real fixture. I looked down and saw this wire that's been put on to shut this gate. That's Murphy McRae's doings right there. He lives on with us. And we recently lost Joe, who was also from Jacksonville, roots there. But I'm blessed to know this family well, and we're blessed to still have McRae's here after 200 years.
I wish that grandson was here too.
Yes, well, they've got a video.
I'll show it to him.
Let's see what he lives.
Y'all ready? We'll go to the next one. Judge Eskel Graham.